What is going on, my homies? Welcome to Mikey Balls Fishing. Got a garage talk for you today because I kind of went crazy at Monster Bass, Tackle Warehouse, even grabbed some Gambler stuff from Gambler, dude. It's fall, and I've been on kind of a kick, and you're going to see what the kick is based on these lures. Like, I got a t-shirt on and a beanie, so it's like 35, 50, 40 degrees in the morning, and then it's 65 in the afternoon, at least some of the days. Some of it's been pretty darn cold, but less tournaments going on. A lot of guys are hunting, so it gives us free reign, dude. Send it, bro. Go fishing. Go fishing. That's my best recommendation for right now. Before we get started, though, hit that like and subscribe button if you like grassroots fishing, honesty, and directness, which you won't find very much on YouTube. You'll probably enjoy this channel, and if you don't, let me know. But hit the thumbs down and drop it down in the comments box. I'm always open to criticism. I grabbed a bunch of stuff that really embodies the way that I'm approaching fall right now. And so I'm just going to jump right into it. One of the things that I've been on an absolute kick on is drop shotting. But it's, hold on, don't turn this video off yet. It's not your standard drop shotting. It's what I would call flipping drop shots. So I grabbed some stuff, and I'll kind of talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing. But you guys have seen these before. These are the West Coast quick drop shots. They're on Tackle Warehouse. They're some of the cheapest, best, most standardized like drop shot weights you can get. I've gotten a 1/4 ounce and a 3/8 ounce. I got a bunch of them. And then I got some super duper standards. So I guess I should jump right into it. It's ever since I went up to Wisconsin, I've been on this kick with seeing fish and dropping to them, like single fish, like picking out a bass, picking out a fish, and fishing that specific fish. And it's something that you can do in fall. You have all this bait around, but you can actually go through some of that bait, look at those bait clouds. We've done it in Florida a little bit, and you can actually find the singular bass in them, and you almost flip to them. Like, I'm not casting a long ways away. I'm literally pitching to a target, but instead of that target being like a tree sticking out of the water, a clump of grass, it's actually a fish. Like, I'm literally pitching to a fish. So I wanted a range of baits that I can do that with. So I've grabbed some classics, but I'm trying some different colors. So one of them is these robo worms right here. These are the 4.5 inch, so a little smaller. And even though this says baby bluegill, it doesn't look like a baby bluegill to me. When you put them actually up in the light and look through them, it's actually like a transparent kind of smoke color. So I got some of those to kind of mimic the minnows and the shad. Some standard, this is the Be Like Delight. This is Brett Height Delight. It's got a little chartreuse in it, a little bit of blue, very cool color. But basically the concept is I grabbed a bunch of like robo worms, which are supple, kind of, they're not hand poured, they're like poured by a robot, you know, but very supple, soft, compact baits in a variety of colors that really are streamlined, that can get down there quick. In that same vein, you guys have heard about bait fuel because I put bait fuel on the videos, but bait fuel in one of these, where is it? In a tube, just like this. You know, bait fuel, I put it on whatever, whether it's, you know, fishing a brush pile, things along those lines. But what NetBait did is they put bait fuel inside some of their baits. So they make a drop shot bait. This is the crush worm, and they make it in 2 sizes. I wanted something downsized that would compare with like a power bait, the flatworm, which works, and I have some of, but I wanted an alternative. You know, the power worm or the power bait flatworm, it has kind of limited colors because it's made in that weird material. The net bait is more of your standard plastic, so I was able to get, these are Killer Pumpkin. They got a little touch of pink in them and a very light pumpkin color. And then I got another one called Bang, and it's basically a clear kind of purple. It's almost like a hazy kind of shad kind of look. But the biggest key is they got that bait fuel, so, you know, the fish gravitate towards it. It kind of triggers them or whatever. But it's a very small 3-inch bait that will get down quick. It's very compact and unobtrusive, because a lot of times I'm doing this where spotted bass are mixed with largemouth. So I want something small so the spots follow it, because oftentimes the spots will actually trigger the largemouth to come over to it. So I've been on that drop shot kick. You're probably going to see some of it because it's been a lot of fun. And I like flipping, and it's basically sort of flipping with your graph. So it's been kind of a cool experience. On a more classical fall note, this is a spinnerbait my buddy Miles Murray from Lake Guntersville put me on. This is a War Eagle. I believe it's called it's like the spot remover. It's the spot remover color, but it's actually a downsized spinnerbait. Basically, what the deal is with this guy is it's a 1/2 ounce but it's a micro half ounce. Really, it's about moving your bait quickly to sort of trigger bites. So basically, I can slang this spinnerbait a mile, burn it, and even though it's downsized and looks almost like a quarter ounce spinnerbait and has smaller willow blades, I can fish it pretty fast, and it's not gonna, you know how the spinnerbaits like rise out and they kind of blast out of the water, they breach the surface of the water. This won't, so it's a great thing for mimicking that bait when you're around schoolies and that, and you can't move the bait fast enough. So it's downsized, matches the bait, but you can fish it super fast. In that same vein, a bait that you guys saw in my smallmouth video from Green Lake up in Wisconsin, I've really kind of fallen in love with fishing a spy bait, and specifically this dual realis. It's a unique style of bait. A lot of guys fish this where they cast it out and they slow reel it. I'm actually fishing it almost like you'd fish a fluke or a buzz bait, just underwater though. So I'm casting it as far as I can, and these things you can throw a mile, which is really helpful for clear water schooling fish, but I'm burning it, dude. It's never getting like more than maybe 2 or 3 foot below the surface. And the neatest part, and it's unique to the Dual Realis from what I understand, is that when you stop this thing, it does this like Senko style shimmy where it shimmies back and forth down to the bottom. So I can reel it, burn it, kill it, and it'll just shake there, almost like it's a minnow that's been stunned or it's just hanging out for a second, and that's usually when I'll get my bites. Because a lot of times, you know, in fall, the fish are pretty obvious where they are because you can see them surfacing, you can see the bait surfacing. The hardest part is making a presentation to catch them. Fishing fast enough, fishing finesse enough, downsizing, really triggering those fish in some way with some kind of feature to actually get them to bite, because you know they're there, you can see them. I've been on so many bites where literally I've seen 20 pounds and I can barely catch a fish. And that's kind of what fall is to me, so finding ways to trigger those fish. Another thing in that same vein, whether you like them or not, they work, and you gotta have it in your arsenal this time of year, and that is Alabama rigs. Alabama rigs are a big key because we are dealing with those big balls of bait. I'm a big fan, and I feel like I'm the only fan of Picasso A-rigs. I know a lot of guys throw like the Flash Mob. They throw I actually got a couple. It's the Hog Farmer version, the really big one. He actually makes a really quality Alabama rig. But for my kind of standard uses, I really like the Picasso, and there's a couple reasons. They offer a variety of different sizes. So this is the junior. I actually have the original. I have the finesse. I have all the different versions, and they all offer different blade sizings, different terminal tackle sizings on them, so you can kind of mix it and match. You know, if I'm on Smith Lake or if I'm fishing for spots and I'm using very small minnows or something like that, or I want a smaller presentation, I can throw on 18-pound test on fluorocarbon, or a shorter rod, I can use the finesse. If I'm on Gunnersville and I want to use the big Mondo one, I can upgrade to that. But I like the diversity that these things offer, and they're made well. They're a little bit on the pricey end, and on that note, I'll put links to all this stuff, whether it's at Monster Bass, Tackle Warehouse, wherever I get it. I'll put links down in the description box so you guys can go check it out, see if it applies to where you fish, see if the price point fits what you're looking for. To rig those A-rigs out, so this is how bad I am. This is like a bulk pack of the Gambler Goat Screw Lock jig heads. This is the jig head that I use on all my Alabama rigs, and you saw it all summer while I was throwing swim baits and that. It looks just like that. It's a little, I don't know if the camera's actually gonna focus on that. It's a downsized screw lock jig head, perfect for little swim baits, little 2-inch, 3-inch, 3.5-inch swim baits. And that's what I find I'm putting on my Alabama rigs this time of year. A prime example is what I got right here. This is the Gambler Teasy. The one thing that I like, an Alabama rig is a very power fishing oriented thing. In an ideal world, I would probably put Kitex on it, but I'm not made of money and they tear up super easy. So I look for something that can handle the sort of impact fishing that you do with an Alabama rig, but still provides the profile and look that I'm going for. And I've found with this Teasy, it's the perfect blend of durability as well as size. It really has a nice profile, a very small tail on it, and it does a perfect job of mimicking all that small bait. It's very easy to throw on the Alabama rig, and it fits perfect on those locked up shad heads. They're like a 2-watt hook on them with the screw lock, and it's perfect for putting on there. This is the Gambler Mino, And then we have the fish head spin. This is the one that was actually recommended to me by my buddy Tim Hammonds at Hammonds Fishing Center on Lanier. Obviously, he's got a bunch of experience with underspins. It's a prime time spotted bass lure all year round. This time of year, it becomes a really good lure for largemouth and smallmouth as well. The key being is it's a great suspended fish bait. So you have a blade below the lead head. It's basically a swim bait head, and I can put a Kitech on the back. I can put a little easy on the back. I've actually put aces or stick baits on the back of it. I've put little flukes on the back. You can very much mix up what you're running on the back, and you can fish it in a lot of different ways. One of the things that I've done a little bit different sometimes is I'll take this thing, and in the standard operating procedure is just reel it. So you're slow rolling it, almost fishing it like a spinner bait, but in a little more pulsated retrieve. But I'll actually stroke it, much like you'd stroke a jig. So I'll be reeling it, keeping it off the bottom all the time, but then I'll pop it, and it almost fishes like a spoon or when you're stroking a jig, and it causes those fish to react. Once again, it's that concept of separating your bait from everything else that's around, because there's so much bait doing the same thing around. If you can make that bait dance, if you can separate it, make it a little more distinct from all that bait running around, usually you can get those bass to target it. We'll go with a classic, dude. So this guy. Now, I hate lures that guys are obsessed with, and this is a lure that a lot of guys are obsessed with, and there's very good reason. The Vixen is probably one of the best spooks ever made, and like will ever be. I have no idea why. It makes some boing doing sound, like bong dong, when you're going like retrieving it, walking it back and forth. And the older ones are better, which ironically I had two of them sitting in the bottom of Headwater somewhere because they broke off on me, which was absolutely heartbreaking, but that's a whole nother story. The Vixen though, a spook, a topwater, you'd be amazed. What's crazy is in fall, you would think as the water cools, these fish get less active. They do it at a certain point, but as that water cools, they actually enjoy it because they were so hot in the summer. It got to a point where their metabolism and their activity level was actually downgraded. As that water cools, they sort of get hyped up, almost like an inverted, like backwards spring. And you get a little topwater window. It's usually not very long, might be a week, might be 2 weeks, but you get a little spook popper kind of window where these fish are schooling or you're calling them up from some of the last grass. A Vixen's a really good way to do it. And this is actually a transparent Vixen. This is the ghost herring color. I like this because it allows me to throw a bigger lure, but as we talked about, a lot of the bait's small, so they don't see it as well. You know, even in some of that semi-stained water, it's more about that vibration, that sound that it's creating, and it calls them up, and they're a little more committed to actually eat it and close the deal on it, even though it is, you know, a classic sort of big body profile spook. What else do we got here? This is one actually I got off Monster Bass. So this time of year, we gradually move into a pretty epic track bite. And as that water cools, those fish kind of want something that's a little more, I don't know, a little more tighter wobble in that. And this guy is naughty for a couple reasons. One, I can fish it fast. To mimic some of that bait that's scooching around. Two, this is a one knocker. We always talk about different vibrations being the key with traps, the way they sound, the way they call fish. As we get colder into winter, this is going to be a go-to. But that tail beginning kind of just starts in fall when that trap bite goes off. One last thing, and then we'll get to some juice. So I did grab some Kitechs. You know, for as much as I will hate on the price point of Kitechs, they are the most epic fall bait that you can ever run into, and expect to see more videos on them because we're going to talk about some really cool ways to rig them. The reason I want to show these to you though is I didn't know they existed. Maybe they were there before, but you guys know how much I love green gizzard shad in practically any hard bait that I can get. 6XD, 10XD, any kind of crankbait, DT6, all of that. Well, these are basically the green gizzard shad of Kitechs. These are red pearl green back. And this is the 2.8. I like the smaller ones this time of year, once again, because that bait's smaller, but also because I can fish it pretty quick, and it doesn't really ride up as much. It's less plastic on whatever ball head that I want to use. So I was pretty excited to see that at Tackle Warehouse, so I grabbed some of those. So we're going to wrap up on this guy. So it's kind of a double component. I teased you guys about it, but I've been absolutely killing them on the Chatterbait Mini Max. So of course, I got some more. This is the 3/8, which is what I've been fishing, but I think I talked to you guys about how I was using the 3/8 and I really wanted a 1/4 ounce because the Mini Max fishes deeper. than a standard chatterbait. So if you got a 3/8, it really fishes depth-wise like a 1/2 ounce chatterbait, and so on and so forth. So I wanted something for as we get later in fall, or even at some points in fall, you get some fish that can be dirt shallow, whether they're wolf packing or whether it's that early like winter bite when those fish get super skinny on a summer day. So I wanted a 1/4 ounce so I could fish it a little bit shallower and maybe even slow down a little bit as those water temps drop. So I grabbed a couple 1/4 ounce mini max chatterbaits. I'm kind of excited about those. I think I'm going to do some serious damage. They fish a lot more like a trap than a chatterbait, and I love fishing a trap. I'm just going to have to dial in my retrieves as well as my setup a little bit, because one of the things that happens as it does get colder is your bites get a little less aggressive, where it's more of like a grab and a hold. And when it comes to fishing like a trap, like the one I got from Monster Bass, like this guy, it's pretty easy because you got treble hooks on it. It's an open hook presentation. You use a pretty parabolic rod. You got to have a little more stoutness with the chatterbait because it has a little thicker hook, and you only have one hook. You know, it's a single hook presentation. So I got to play around with my setup and kind of dial that in. But sort of as an extension to that, you know red season is coming. It isn't here yet, but it is coming. This is the trailer on that micro, on that mini max chatterbait I've been killing it on, and it's that Hog Farmer, what does he even call it? The Spunk Shad. I'll probably get flagged for that. Nice. But the 3.5 inch, so I got Blowtorch. That's a little more for later season. I'm kind of planning ahead. But then I re-upped on, this is one of my favorite colors. He calls it Blue Gizzard, but it's what you'd call like an albino shad, like fluke. It's, you know, that pearl back, kind of like with a tinge of blue and then a pearl belly on it. Absolutely stellar color for mimicking shad, both in semi-stained water as well as clearer water, because you can always throw some chartreuse on the tail, but it also is semi-transparent, but has a nice sort of reflective sort of component to it, iridescent even at some points. So it really has a natural sort of feel to it, no matter what type of water that you're actually fishing it in. So that is a wrap on my little unboxing, my little goodies. Now I gotta go put them in the boat, and I think it's like 40 degrees outside, so I'm gonna freeze a little bit. But we're gonna pack all this in the boat and get out and go fishing. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you got anything to add, drop it down in the comments box, or if you got any questions about any of the baits that I'm trying out, using, or implementing for fall, drop that down there too. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'll give a ball of a pat for you. We are out.